Grandparents. It has occurred to me over the last couple months that I am so grateful to have all of my grandparents still. A lot of my friends can't say that they do, and I've realized this through talking with them recently. I've had so many conversations with my friends where they have told me that they wish that their grandmother or grandfather was still alive so that they could tell them or ask them certain things. I have been so blessed to have all 4 sets of my grandparents still alive and healthy. After having these conversations with my friends, it became aware to me that I need to have these conversations that my friends are regretting not having. I need to ask my grandparents about life advice. I'm going into my 20s this year. It's just so bizarre to me because I still feel like I'm 17. Your 20s are the most important years of your life, debatably. So what is a better time than right now to go and interview all of my grandparents and ask the big life questions? It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you the Grandparent Project. The glory days. When are the glory days? Is it middle school? Is it high school? Is it college? When is the best time of your life? I hear a lot of people say that it's your 20s, which is pretty exciting because my 20s are right in front of me. However, I hear a lot more people say that your glory days are high school. Times were way different than they are now, and I'm excited to hear about it. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the glory days.
We lived upstairs in the Brooke house, and Grandma lived downstairs. I lived on the farm. We had cows and horses, and my dad pulled horses at the fair, and we actually used them in the field too. I liked it, I really did, even though the times were tough sometimes. We had chickens, but chickens and I didn't get along. They come after me one time, I couldn't get the door open. And on the one end, it was the kickiest cow in the world. I went through that, and all I could see is that cow turning, and that rooster was right behind me. And anyway, the next day, the rooster wasn't there. Daddy wrung its neck.
Oh my gosh. When my parents divorced, my mom lived in a town in Hillsdale. Mm-hmm. My dad lived on a farm in Frontiersville. We really had the best of both lives. During the week, we'd ride our bikes. We had an alley behind our house. We'd go in a circle around the block. Had a lot of kids in our neighborhood, so there were lots of nights of hide and seek and games like that. Then we'd go to my dad's on the weekends, and it was about sometimes riding ponies. My brother and I used to go down to my stepmom's dad's house, and he had a whole corral full of ponies all the time. And we'd get on them, and they were wild. And we'd just see which one could stay on the longest.
The first house I remember living in was when I lived in Manitoba Beach.
Oh.
And that's where we had the rabbits, and I remember picking blackberries and mulberry bushes and eating them, and I remember rhubarb and picking that. I guess we were big into gardening, and I remember being outside like all the time. You know, you could just look outside and see your friends everywhere.
I was raised on a farm back in the 50s and early 60s. Everybody had chores, so after school you had to do your chore. I lived on the farm until I was about 12, 13, and then my parents divorced and we went to the city.
My parents divorced when I was about 2, so my childhood was virtually fatherless. We seen him a couple times a year on holidays or visitation, but it was virtually my mom and my 2 sisters and my grandma and my aunt and me. She was a single mom, tried to provide as much as possible. When I got older, I always had a desire to live with my dad, so it was hard for me to be happy there.
Yeah, my dad worked second shift, so I only saw him on weekends. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times he'd work weekends, so I didn't see him very much at all.
I lost my mom in a car accident, and I was 4. Mm-hmm. Just barely 4, and I do not remember anything about her. Pretty much as kids we're on our own. But I mean, I really love my dad's stuff, but he was gone a lot, and us kids pretty much did the milking and feeding them stuff like that.
You do it how you can do it at the time. And she was one mother and 4 children.
Really respected my mom and dad because they worked hard and they just provided well with what we had. My dad turned from a farmer into a salesman, so he would sell our house for more money than what we paid for it. Today they'd call him a hustler.
My mother wasn't as strict as my dad, and my dad was, what he said is what he meant. So you didn't argue with him at all.
When you did something wrong, you knew you didn't want to do it again.
My dad was pretty strict. He was a lot of fun, but when he said stop it, you stop now. My mom, she was one of those wait till your dad gets home. That was the worst ever.
My mother is German, so she parented us pretty strict. You were going to eat whatever was there. No, we didn't have to have our parents standing there watching us brush our teeth, or, you know, you just knew. Every Saturday we stripped our beds. I remember not ever even questioning, do I have to do dishes again tonight? No, you knew. And if you did not do it right, everything was taken out of the cupboards and you washed all the dishes. You never talked back, because my mother told my younger sister, Jeanette, I don't know if you've met her, it's enough. It's enough, stop. It's enough. And if Jeanette always had to say just one more thing. And she said, if you say it one more time, I'm going to tape your mouth shut. And she did. She used the black electrical tape because that's all she could find. We all remember the tape going all the way around her head because we've talked about this. My mother says it was only like that. Then my mother says, I'll do it again. I will do it again and I'll do it worse.
Our parents were very strict, but yet they were good. And I think today, kids run to parents. You get some really good kids, and then you get some that just think they know everything. And I don't like the way they talk back to their parents. And parents should not let that happen. Nip it in the bud. And then I think they'd have a great life with them.
I don't know, they don't really have a lot of respect for their elders or for their mom and dad. It seems like they get a lot given to them, maybe that they don't really earn.
Maybe just work ethic. There's a big difference there. When we wanted to get a couple bucks or make some money, we had to go out and find it. Whether it was mowing a lawn or shoveling snow, you can't find a kid to do that now.
I think this when I see my grandchildren, I don't know that there is the ability to attain something through hard work. I don't think that they have the same time, the same family time that we did. You know, we sat down as a family every night and we had dinner. And we were able to have my mom in the house full time until we got to be teenagers. You know, there's so much of the kids that their parents work.
Cut my tip of my finger off and I had to go to the emergency room. After I got out of there, it was $62. And Dad says, you got to pay for that because it was your mistake. So it took me all summer to pay for my finger being stitched up. Kids today, they want everybody to pay for what they do. But back then, I had to pay for everything I did.
Today's all electronics. My childhood is, you know, playing outside, playing in the dirt, riding bicycles, getting dirty. Street lights came on, you knew it was time to be home. Today is totally different, you know. If it doesn't take batteries today, they're not interested in it.
Electronics. That's major. We didn't have any electronics. In fact, when I was growing up, we only had black and white TV. TV went off at night, where nowadays you can watch it 24/7. TV would go off at, I'm thinking it was 11 or 12 o'clock at night. I think it was 12.
The kids today they can't get in the car unless there's a movie in the car. They can't go anywhere unless they take their iPad, or can they play on their phone, or oh no, they just aren't forced to really think. We were outside all the time. All the time. When Mom yelled our names, it was time to go home. We were busy playing ditch 'em, and there was a playground up the road. We were just allowed to run. Everybody knew everybody's kids, so nobody could do anything wrong.
My mom just set us free in the morning, and we'd go and we'd run the block all day long, And you never had to worry about anything. I mean, you didn't have to worry if you didn't see your kids for 2-3 hours, no biggie. They came in for lunch, they went out, played again till supper, came in, ate supper, went back out until the street lights came on.
Gosh, you could just do anything you wanted to. Go back in the woods all day or take off on the bikes and ride a couple miles down the road to some friends. And nobody, it's not that nobody cared, they just didn't worry about you.
Everybody in the neighborhood watched out for everybody's kids.
That's nice. Though.
It was nice because if we had a problem, we could go to any house. And at that time, there were more moms at home, homemakers. So there was always someone home. If somebody was chasing us or somebody was hurting us or we were scared, we could go to any house and we were safe. And they don't have that now.
Nowadays, if something like that happens, you don't do that because you're scared of something happening to them. But back then, heck, I was gone all day. Nobody even knew about it.
Or we wanted to find something to do. We had 3 channels on the TV, so when you want to find something to do, we went outside. Sometimes kids nowadays are stuck in a bubble and they don't socialize.
In grade school, a couple miles down the road, I hung out with Paul and Tom, and that was about it. They were my main friends, I guess, back then.
My neighbor was like my best friend, and her name was Michelle Fenimore, and she was a great friend. Yeah, she was probably my best friend.
Clip and Robbie and Carl Connon and Chris Connon, and they were all boys. And their dad used to give them mohawks every year. I don't remember having any girlfriends until I moved into Hudson. Because I had sisters.
Well, when you're on a farm and the nearest house is a quarter mile away, you hang out with your siblings.
Hey, it didn't matter if it was a girl or a boy. You hung out with whoever wanted to play ball, whoever wanted to ride bikes. With all the girls around, it wasn't anything for me to end up playing house sometime. You know? I'd always be the dog. People nowadays, it's easy for somebody to get upset with you and hold a grudge for a while. Back then, you might need their help. You might be mowing their grandma's yard. You know, you might want them to help you shovel your driveway.
On the farm, I didn't, have any friends. But I had the dogs. That was actually my friends.
From 13 on, I went to 6 different schools.
If you think about school from kindergarten through graduation, it's 13 years. I went to 12 different schools. Because of my parents being divorced and I lived with my grandparents for a while, I learned to adjust quickly.
Did you ever get into any trouble?
You have to.
Well, I remember one time I got a spanking because I walked across this little store to get candy and I only wore my socks. And I guess when you have 7 kids, socks are expensive.
No, not really. I don't know what trouble means. It's mischief and stuff, and usually it was school because I didn't like school.
Oh, so it was like ditching school?
Yeah, this is gonna sound bad, but other friends of Bob's and we'd skip school. They'd say, "You want to skip school? Well, let's go ask Donna." I literally hated school because I couldn't be in any sports or anything, So
Because of the farm?
yeah.
Well, in elementary, this boy kissed me in kindergarten, and I smacked him across the face. And they had patrol girls, and they were trying to catch me because he told on me for smacking him. I just kept running and hiding from them, and so I got away with that one. And I think it was 9th grade, I got suspended for smoking in the girls' room. In middle school, we had a really strict principal. And the first day I went there, I wasn't really familiar with rules, so I wore a dress to school. While I was at home, because you couldn't wear dresses. They felt it was too enticing to the boys with girls in dresses.
Oh, acting up in class, I got set down there one time because I wouldn't answer. The teacher kept calling me Badgerly. I wouldn't answer her. Until she sent me down to the principal's office, and I told her when she starts calling me Badgerly, I will answer. My name is not Badgerly.
What kind of trouble?
Oh, just fighting with the neighbor kids.
One of the times I changed schools, I went from a city school, and I moved up to my grandparents' house. Well, that's a country school. And my grandpa, giving me his advice, said, these country kids are going to challenge you because you're from the city. That they're going to try to pick on you, they're going to want to fight. Best thing you can do is walk away. I said, okay, I'll walk away. You know, I thought, I'll do whatever my grandpa says. And the second or third day of school, I got expelled for 3 days for fighting. This guy was taking off his watch, he was taking off his belt, and he was handing it to like everybody in the crowd. Well, when the fight was all over, I had to collect all his shit and carry it to the office with us.
You know, nobody ever knew what I did. No.
Sneaky.
I was a little sneaky. I fell off a bridge once. Don't smoke dope on the bridge. I went up to the bridge with a girlfriend and we were 15. It was stones underneath, but at that time there wasn't any water. I think we were laughing and giggling and having fun. And I remember turning to sit down. And I sat down in the air. The next thing I knew, I was bam on the ground and I was standing there like that. And I hit so hard that my glasses flew off my face. Because, I don't know, it's like 20, 30 feet straight down. And the only thought that went through my mind was, oh my God, I hope nobody saw me because they're going to tell my mom. I never told my mother until I was in my early 40s. Wow. Still scared. My younger brother, so he was probably like 7 years younger than I am. He was probably one of the smaller people of his age. And he was always getting beat up by this one kid that lived at the end of the road. So my mother would always send us out like a posse. She would tell us, me and my younger sister, because my younger sister was really mean. Jeanette was super mean. She would tell us to go beat up this kid or go beat up that kid.
You guys would beat him up?
Yes, we would. That they had hurt my brother. One time they had like stolen his hat. It was in the wintertime. They'd stolen his hat. Another time the girl had pushed him down and, you know, and so your mother tells you to go beat these people up. You go forth and you put the smack down on them.
The only place we used to go a lot would be, my mom and dad were from Arkansas, Osceola, and we would take our vacations every year and go down there.
My mother was a twin, so she had a sister in Tennessee, so we went to Tennessee quite a bit.
We used to go up north, across the bridge. Our neighbor, J.B. Isles, he had a cabin, and it had no bathroom, it had an outhouse and stuff, and then we had to go get water and a big milk can and stuff. It was a lot of fun.
There was nothing better than going to my grandpa and grandma's. You know, we didn't necessarily have to do anything, just being with them.
My mom's from Germany, and so my mom took us children back to Germany with her. My dad didn't go, but it was just all of us and my mom, and we went to Germany because that's where I was born, that's where my older sister was born, and my mom's family still lived there. So we all went back and spent like a month in Germany traveling.
Still pretty much in middle school, I was a kid still.
Yeah.
I was just I was just a kid having fun, no worries.
Penny Bagley was a friend of mine because she had a really cute brother.
There were a bunch of girls, kind of a bunch of us that just hung out, partied a lot, boys.
You know, I played a lot of baseball in my life, and I traveled playing ball.
I ran track.
What do you run?
I ran the 2 mile. I ran the mile relay.
Gosh, I think I ran track a little bit. I liked basketball, but I wasn't first string, so I kind of sat on the bench a lot, so I was done with that.
I did basketball. Wasn't so good at it, but I did enjoy it. I was in band. I played the clarinet for quite a few years, did marching band.
I was in a drama type class, and we did a play for the elementary schools.
If I started a sport, I usually wasn't around to finish it.
If I could have, I would have run.
Like track?
Yeah, because running, chasing the horses, there was this real long lane, and I used to just run it.
Had a good childhood. I didn't play any sports or anything, but we ran the neighborhood.
Believe it or not, I did real well in English. We had a test one time, and I was the only one that maxed it.
English.
Me too.
Easy. Yeah.
I always liked English. Yeah, it was like my favorite. I liked to write.
I liked history, but I wasn't really good in history.
I think American history, or I had a class one time, it was Michigan history,
Wow.
and that was very interesting.
Art.
Really?
Yeah.
So, like, what was it that you liked about art?
Everything about it. I liked the drawing and the painting. I took a class on printing. We set up with that. Actually, I draw and design all the posters for dances.
Auto mechanics. Back then they used to teach you in high school about how to fix cars if you took the class.
Did you have a high school sweetheart?
Yep,
You did?
yep. And we got married,
Really?
and we were married for 23 years, and just didn't work out.
That was Bob.
You know, some that I had like the puppy crush on, but nothing ever arose until I met Donna, I guess.
I mean, there was a couple guys that I went out with, but not until I met him, and he didn't go to high school with me.
And I had a boyfriend when I was 16, and that was Julia and Sarah's dad.
Oh, okay.
And my dad. Yeah, and he hated Bob.
Oh, really?
Big time.
Why?
Because he just thought he was a troublemaker because of his older brother.
I think I was really good. Yeah, my older brother wasn't really good, and I kind of learned a lot from that and took away from that.
When I got an option to change and to go to a different school, I definitely jumped at that chance because it was an opportunity to meet whole new different sets of people where they didn't know my family. And for me, that was important. You know, I didn't mind moving and learning different things. You know, my sister was she was an antagonistic person and, you know, kind of really aggressive. And so she was just my older sister she just made such a bad name for herself and for our family. I thought, oh, this is great, get me away from that.
Was life any different in high school?
Yeah, my dad died when I was a sophomore. No, I was a freshman in high school when my dad died. So that changed everything. I went to work. My brother started doing drugs, and I worked. And
Didn't have a lot of credits. And each school took different amounts of credits to graduate. And my problem was the last school I went to took the most credits to graduate compared to the other 5 schools. So I didn't graduate with my class because I was short by a half a credit. 2 years later, I took a GED for the fun of it and graduated.